Hi Dex, I've been thinking a lot lately about what makes a book good to bring with you when you travel because I've been traveling and reading a lot in the last year, and there's this whole concept of a beach read being a book that is light and fun, that you bring on holiday with you. Maybe it's not something that you normally deign to read, like a murder mystery or romance or something. So I wanted to really think about the books that I bring when I travel with me, because I do take books everywhere. I think that paperback is preferable just as a packing option. For short trips, I prefer long books that I just read once and really dive into, and then for longer trips, I bring multiple short books that I can read over and over again. Location is also fun to consider. Like, does the book take place where you're going? Did the author live in that city for a period? Last year when I went to New York, I read The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay for the first time by Michael Chabon, and it was amazing because I finished it in like 4 days over the duration of the trip, and I was there, in the city. I was walking through it as the characters did. I have a friend. Obviously, this squirrel is very interested in books. I have a friend who visited London who brought Mrs. Dalloway with him. The first time I went to Dublin, I brought these weird fairy tale essays from Yeats. Going back to the concept of a beach read, I remember when I was little and we would go on some sort of family holiday, and then I would have my books with me, my little paperbacks, and then afterwards I could look through the book and remember exactly where I was and what I was doing as I read those passages, and there would even be like sand between the pages just to remind it, just like a physical reminder of where I've been. And all of that is especially nice when you go to a place for the first time, because that book is going to be forever associated with that place. So last summer I was studying in Paris with my university. It was the longest that I'd been away from home without any of my family members, and I only brought 3 books with me. I did buy a lot more books while I was there, but that's another discussion. So what these books have in common is that they're not necessarily plot heavy. Like, it's a lot of poetry and theory and philosophy, and it's writing that I want to analyze and memorize and like be able to explain to someone else really well. First up is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. He is one of my favorite poets of all time. I'm reading him in translation, so I definitely don't get like the full effect. So he's writing to Franz Xaver Capus, a young student at a military school, and the student is deciding whether he wants to go full tilt into poetry or continue in the cadet academy. This is absolutely the sort of book that you can and should read over and over again. Dear Mr. Capus isn't ringing in your head by the end of it, then you have to read it again. It also feels nice because almost every letter from Rilke starts off with, "Please accept my dearest apologies for the delay in returning your correspondence," which makes me feel better about how bad I am at returning emails. Next up is The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. I would describe this as a very poetic diary, poetic in the sense that not everything that you read in this book will be easily explainable. Basically, Pessoa left behind a massive trunk of all of his unpublished and unfinished writings when he died, and this is that. It's all of it bound together, and there's a lot of editing symbols that I find really beautiful, squares and slashes and stuff, and to me, as an English major, it really represents where we fail in constructing our literature, because there are some things that we can only point at and not describe fully. I know I just gave a bunch of flowery descriptions, but more or less this book is about a clerk at the turn of the century living in Lisbon alone, and what he discovers in his solitude and all of his personal wanderings. And like when you arrive at the hostel with 2 big suitcases, there's a lot to unpack here. And finally, we have the collected works of Leonard Cohen in a beautiful little Everyman edition that my best friend gave me before I left last summer. This is great. I already own a lot of his books, but this is nice because it's like all of them and a lot of his song lyrics as well that I can just put in my bag and go. On a level of craft, it's really interesting to see the difference between his song lyrics versus just like way shorter lines of verse and poetry, because he's really good at just capturing exact, like, singular moments of sentiment and emotion, as opposed to necessarily an overarching plot. I also think that this is the perfect book for the wandering Jew to bring with them on their travels, if you're feeling guilty, or homesick, or overcome with rapture, mild depression. If you have someone beautiful lying in your lap and you want to read them poetry, this is what you go for. Today's fact is that this is some lavender from the gardens of Notre Dame that I pressed and brought back with me, and now fills me with all the pleasures of scent. So let me know, what is your favorite book to travel with? Do you reach for something more comfortable and familiar, or do you really branch out and bring along like the 6-volume alchemical text from the 16th century? Let me know. That is all for me for today. I am going to go answer emails that I should have responded to 3 months ago. Thank you very much. Goodbye, nerds.